In addition to a one-time or single gift this evening, there are so many important things that we do all year long. So those single gifts will go towards Michelle, David, let's scroll down here, Judith, Victoria, hello. Hello and welcome to the broadcast this evening to the Building Hope Webcast, the Coalition for Life St. Louis. You're at the right place at the right time for this amazing event this evening, the Building Hope Webcast. Well, if you haven't already done so, please go ahead and click the button on the bottom that says share. If you can share it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, any of those platforms, go ahead and share this event. Let everyone else know that you are here on this Building Hope Webcast event. We have so many amazing speakers this evening, so many great big announcements to share with you this evening. And so if you haven't already done so, go ahead and share. And then also in the comments section below, let us know that you're here. We're going to have all kinds of chat throughout the entire program, and so go ahead and ask any questions you might have. We have some team members who are going to be answering some of those questions as we go through the broadcast this evening. Go ahead and put those questions in there. Let us know where you're from, where you're joining us this evening, and we're going to go ahead and get ready to rock and roll this Building Hope Webcast. So the first thing we want to do is we want to thank our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for all the amazing things that He's provided for us. So let's join together as Christians in prayer. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank You for this day and the gift of life, and we thank You for the amazing gift of technology, of having this amazing broadcast, but for first and foremost for You and Your death on the cross, but more importantly, Your rising from the dead. And we thank You for the so many people who across our great nation tonight are worried, who are concerned, who are conservative, Republican, Democrat, whoever they are concerned for our country and concerned for their lives and their livelihoods. And so we just ask You to give us hope and give us comfort, but also give us prudence and fortitude as we continue to fight this pandemic, but then also fight for life, fight for the unborn as well. So we ask You to join us during this time and ultimately give us the opportunity to save even more lives from abortion here in our region. Amen. All right, well, let's get started. We have so much content to cover this evening. And first and foremost, we're going to answer the question about, is it legal for us to even be out at the abortion facility? What are our legal rights, both our constitutional legal rights, but then also what this means with regards to the executive orders and all the new legislation that's coming down so quickly, both from the federal, state, and local levels. And so I don't pretend to be an attorney. And so we have two great attorneys on this evening who are going to be answering those really, really important questions about what are my legal rights? But then also, in addition to that, what's prudent? What is prudent for us to do in this climate that we're in, this coronavirus pandemic climate? What is the right or prudent thing for us to do? And sometimes we don't always know those answers, but we do want to explore some of those possibilities with you this evening. So beyond learning our legal rights as well, we want to know how the Coalition for Life and how each and every single one of you have transformed the pro-life movement in just the last roughly 10 years in the St. Louis region, and then also a huge opportunity moving forward. The culture of life is making both regional and national waves over the last year. So many amazing things have happened throughout the pro-life movement, both nationally and locally, and we'll be discussing those as well with you. You'll hear personal testimonies from the front lines of people who are saving lives right in front of the abortion facility, right there where those women are going to take the lives of their little unborn children. Those abortionists are going to use a knife and a suction tube to take the life of those children. We're going to talk to those people who are saving lives out there. And we're also going to talk about some current developments to reach unprecedented number of new women. You will hear a client testimony of how they had been helped and a baby had been saved. Also, we have two surprise announcements. Not one, but two surprise announcements this evening, along with a very special guest, Abby Johnson. Abby will be joining us very much later in the evening tonight. But we are so blessed to have Abby on the broadcast this evening, and she'll be sharing one of these big announcements with you and how this directly impacts each and every single one of us in the St. Louis region. You'll also then hear an unprecedented and very new opportunity to grow the Coalition for Life program over the next 12 months and ultimately save more lives and continue to end abortion in the St. Louis region. So one of the things I wanted to share with you first to get us started is just a very brief history of who the Coalition for Life is, what is 40 Days for Life, and what are we going to be doing moving forward as we continue to fight for life. So the 40 Days for Life started back in 2009 in the St. Louis region. Myself, my wife, and a few individuals up at St. Ferdinand Parish in North County joined together in a quick little prayer and said, what are we going to do? How can we impact abortions like never before. And we decided to bring 40 Days for Life to the St. Louis region back in 2009, and ever since then it has continued to grow and grow and grow. 40 Days is prayer and fasting, peaceful vigil, and grassroots community outreach to bring an end to abortion at the local community. That prayer and fasting happens right outside the local abortion facility, right where abortions happen. And since we started back in 2009, we've had nearly 15,000 individuals from around the region join us there at the abortion facilities, including now the Fairview Heights Planned Parenthood as well. Now, of course, during this coronavirus and pandemic, sadly, we had to finish that 40 days of prayer in our homes. But even then, we had some great opportunities to save lives and to pray for an end to abortion as well. As we continue to grow, in 2011, we started our sidewalk counseling program as well. And so that sidewalk counseling has continued today right outside the abortion facility. And we continue to grow that from 2011 to then every single hour Planned Parenthood is open in the St. Louis region. And then in October, we moved, we expanded and grew over in Fairview Heights, Illinois as well to do sidewalk counseling, saving babies, saving mothers, and helping families right there at the abortion facility itself. And so through that program, we have seen over 2,500 turnarounds at the local abortion facility. These women have been sent to local pregnancy centers, local charities, and also through our own Women's Care Connect program to ultimately choose life for their children. And finally, we've got not even finally, we have one other program before that, which is our March on the Arch. March on the Arch, earlier this year, we had over 1,200 individuals, people of faith, who joined us there at the Planned Parenthood in St. Louis, Missouri. These 1,200 people prayed, we fasted, and we celebrated life all the way from St. Louis Planned Parenthood all the way down to the Gateway Arch. That was an amazing event, and only a week later were there restrictions put on events of that size all around the nation. So we were able to squeeze that in right beforehand. But that was our third annual event, March on the Arch, and we'll continue to do that event as long as we are able and legally able to do so. So that event hopefully will continue next year as well. So March on the Arch. And then finally, one of my favorite programs is Women's Care Connect. So while we meet them on the sidewalk, 40 Days for Life is a base of prayer and fasting, and we pray for them. And then we meet them on the sidewalk through our sidewalk counseling. Then our follow-up program, Women's Care Connect, is a full-blown pregnancy center with pregnancy testing and life coaching and so much more to offer to these women. And then we have some additional services we're about to announce this evening, but you'll have to wait for those until just a little bit later. So that's Coalition for Life. We love life and we're celebrating life. And so let's get right into it. No more waiting, but let's get right into it. And my first guest during the Building Hope webcast tonight is our very own brand new Board of Directors member, Mr. Lyndon Jost, resident here in Fairview Heights, Illinois. Lyndon, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Brian.
So we're going to be talking a lot about Fairview Heights during this broadcast this evening. And one of the reasons is because Planned Parenthood has released some new numbers specifically telling the public every single month how many abortions they've been doing, both in the St. Louis location and then also in the Fairview Heights location as well. And I was able to share this with you just right before the broadcast today. And tell me about your reaction. I believe we're going to be able to put it up on the screen. Hopefully we can do that. So our viewers can see, and also you can see. Walk me through this chart. What does this mean for us in the St. Louis region?
Well, I guess what's interesting to me is that Fairview Heights always had a Planned Parenthood facility. It was in a shopping mall on a local highway, but they did not do surgical abortions there. And so as I look at the numbers that you've got on the chart, it's obvious that they were doing chemical abortions, that they were doing medications, but probably there was not that awareness in our general area of around Fairview Heights. And then you see in October, as they opened their new mega facility, as they called it,
Right.
and began to do surgical abortions, you see this dramatic increase of from October to November plus 100, then it looks like it holds about that way, and then into January and February, another 100. So they more than tripled the number of abortions that they're doing out of Fairview Heights, and at the same time, the number coming out of St. Louis has just fallen away almost to nothing.
Right.
Really obvious from the numbers, it's what has happened is that those services have shifted from the St. Louis, from the Missouri side of the river to the Illinois side of the river. And I think it's pretty obvious when you see that the St. Louis facility is now the last facility in Missouri, and that you're very close to becoming the first state in the United States to have no abortion facilities. That the contrast between that and the state of Illinois, where the administration and the laws have just opened their arms to the abortion industry, and the laws look like they've almost been written by the abortionists. It's very obvious what Planned Parenthood has done here. They've opened this facility just 15 miles from downtown St. Louis with the intent that we'll just be able to serve these women in a state where we'll be welcomed and we won't be restricted.
Right. Well, but what I'm hearing is maybe the state of Illinois is welcoming more and more abortion, but I don't know that that's the fact for Fairview Heights, Belleville, or even just Southern Illinois in general. Tell me about your reaction. You know, we're seeing, at least in the chart now, up to 323 abortions in Fairview Heights in February of this year. So tell me the reaction of both yourself and those people around you as you saw this place open and the news break just like everything else.
First reaction was despair. And so it kind of goes with even the title of the webcast, building hope in a time of despair. That was my first reaction. How can this be happening 3 or 5 miles from my home?
Right.
And then the next reaction was, what do we do? What can we do? And so I think very quickly there was a coalition of people who came together who said, we need to try to do something to stop this. So if anything, it may have taken us out of our complacency where we didn't have surgical abortions in our backyard to now it became more real and it became more of our problem. And we often say they've awoken the sleeping giant. And I really do think seeing the reactions of the community and the organizations, that's true.
Right. So tell me, I know that you're working with quite a few different organizations to collaborate and help with that. Without going into too many specifics, tell me the reactions of how these groups are starting to work together and how you could potentially be instrumental in helping to pull together an even stronger base of pro-life groups and pro-life individuals in Southern Illinois.
Well, I think the way I could best describe it prior to this was that we had a lot of pro-life organizations, but everybody was in their own silo doing their own thing and not coordinating with each other. And what has happened now is we have a group, a loosely formed group of maybe 20 different organizations that are coming together on a monthly basis to meet and to coordinate their efforts. It's not that we're forming a new organization. We're not looking to do that. All we're trying to do is provide the forum for people to talk to each other and coordinate with each other so that we have a unified approach to fighting abortion at Fairview Heights.
Absolutely. So what can you tell? A lot of people are being forced to stay at home. Some people are choosing to stay at home. This is unlike we've ever seen before. The coronavirus and then the response that the government has here is completely unheard of, like never before. And so how can you help us understand how we can become active and engaged in the pro-life movement, even from our homes?
Well, I think the first thing would be prayer, prayerful support for those efforts. I think the other thing is, and now I am biased because I'm on the board, but I'm on the board because I believe in what Coalition for Life does. You and your staff have shown their effectiveness in being able to stop and talk to women before they go into this facility in Fairview Heights, and to offer an alternative to abortion right there in front of their gates. And we have seen those numbers. We've seen how effective you've been. And I think that's where the despair goes away. That's where it's encouraging. And I said to many, many people, some of us are not able to be there because of other commitments. Some of us are not willing to be there. There are people who are still concerned about being on that front line of the fight against abortion, but you and your staff are not. And they're very effective at what they do. And so you are our proxy at that location. And that's why I think I and others need to support you financially, because it gives you the ability to put people there every day that Planned Parenthood is open. And I know that with COVID-19 and with the state's rules on sheltering in place, we stopped doing that for a while, but Planned Parenthood didn't stop.
Right.
On Good Friday, they were performing abortions in this facility. Every day they've been doing that. So they're using protective equipment that could be used to fight COVID to take the lives of babies.
Right.
And I was very encouraged. I found hope in the fact that when you and the Pregnancy Care Center decided that you would go back on site, on that first day, we had 3 turnarounds right away.
Yes.
So again, it shows the effectiveness of being there and having to be there. And we need to support that.
Right. So, as Lyndon had mentioned, we are back on the sidewalk for a short amount of time. We pulled all of our team back, all of our volunteers. Sadly, we had to suspend the 40 Days for Life campaign. And so as we start to see both some of the results coming back from the CDC and other results from COVID testing, these kind of things, in addition to looking deeply into some of the laws. And we'll talk to others about the laws and some of the executive orders as well. But as we saw that coming out, we pulled together a small group of people to be able to hit the streets and be out there now 3 days a week working with Mosaic Pregnancy Center, but then continuing to grow and expand that until we cover every single hour and every moment that abortion facility is open, taking the lives of little innocent children, both in Missouri, but then also in Illinois on both locations. And so I'm encouraged with those individuals who have come to us and who have been very excited about rejoining the efforts. And yeah, on that first day, we had 3 turnarounds, and on the next day, we had another 4 turnarounds. And so we know that there is effectiveness, and we know that we can be out there and do the work of saving lives. Lyndon, anything else that you can help us understand, help us to build hope in this coronavirus crisis as we continue to move forward in the pro-life movement?
Well, I guess one of the things I always want to point out to people, because we live in a metropolitan area, but there is a distinct mental divide between the Missouri side and the Illinois side. And I sometimes worry that people on the Missouri side of the river, when you think of your political leadership there, and you think the way the state has rallied to support pro-life and all of the things that you have in place to do that, we have 0 on the Illinois side. And I think people in Missouri need to understand, while you may be winning the fight and you may in fact eliminate all abortion facilities in St. Louis, the fight hasn't stopped. It simply moved 15 miles to the east, and it's going to continue. And it is women from the Missouri side who are coming to Illinois to have those abortions now. If we think we're done and we walk away from this, or we become complacent in Missouri, they will win. We need to understand that the fight has moved over here. And we are now, I think, as David B. Wright said, this is the epicenter of the fight against abortion in the United States now.
Thank you, Lyndon, for being on the broadcast tonight. You inspire me. You motivate me to be able to continue the fight and ultimately win the battle for life, because we know who ultimately wins the victory, and that's Jesus Christ. And so we know we've won. We know that truth is with us, and so let's continue to fight the good fight. Thank you, Lyndon, for being on the call, and thank you for your friendship and your support.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so grateful for everyone being on the call today on this amazing broadcast, this hopeful broadcast. And we are joined by so many great pro-life individuals, both here in the local area, but across our great country, both local leaders, but then also national leaders. And one of my big heroes is this gentleman we have on next, who has been working in the pro-life movement for almost as long as I have been alive, or maybe even longer. But this gentleman has been to the Supreme Court over and over and over again, has fought battles that we don't even have time to talk about, the amazing legal battles that this legend has gone through. With me today is Mr. Tom Brecka with the Thomas More Society. Tom, welcome to the broadcast.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Thank you for the invitation.
Well, I'm so blessed to have you on. And so I know that you're up in Chicago, and we're glad that you're joining us, social distancing from your home. Very blessed to have you with us. So tell me, I know that you first got started in the pro-life movement with basically one of the largest cases you worked on. Tell me about that first case you worked on.
St. Louis played such a critical role in the early days. And it was back in 1986 when the National Organization for Women, under Molly Yard, Patricia Ireland, names from the distant past, sued, along with the Southern Poverty Law Center, Morris Dees, Richard Cohen, sued Joe Scheidler, based in Chicago, and his Pro-Life Action League, along with John Ryan and the Pro-Life Direct Action League, which are based in St. Louis. So we were arm in arm with St. Louis pro-lifers from 1986 all the way to the present. We went up to the Supreme Court on that case. It was originally antitrust, which didn't make any sense at all, but it took 5 years to get the courts to agree and dismiss those claims. And then they added RICO, the Racketeering Act, and so we went up to the Supreme Court. It took 3 trips. We won the first one. We lost the first one. We died to nothing, and that was pretty bad, but we held in there. And what a metaphor this is for what it takes to win in pro-life. The second time up there, 8-1, we won. And then it was 8-0. It would have been 9. It would have been unanimous, but Justice O'Connor, well, it was unanimous, but it was a short 8, not 9, because O'Connor had retired and the new Justice Alito hadn't heard the argument, so he couldn't participate. But that case established the right to be outside the abortion provider on the street, advocating for the life of the unborn infants at risk.
We had a chance earlier to talk about many of the different cases that the Thomas More Society is filing around the country, including other legal groups who are filing these lawsuits specifically against states that are allowing abortion to continue while restricting so many other businesses and so many other healthcare activities, but yet allowing abortions to continue. So tell me about some of that work that's going on.
Well, initially, I don't know how many cases we've been involved in, which are the many state executives and city executives are limiting folks from even being outside the clinics. It's like a sequel to the Now versus Scheidler and Ryan case, that somehow, even with social distancing, you're not allowed to be outside, and therefore, even though the abortion provider could continue to do business as before, because some of them are deemed to be, quote, essential services, and it's essential to to take life in the name of preserving life on the part of COVID-19 victims. You know, we've had to fight that the people have the right under the First Amendment to be there advocating for the life of infants when they socially distance. So we've had cases in Mississippi. We have had cases in New York. But beyond that now, we're actually looking at attacking state orders that allow abortion providers to continue to operate, even though, the other businesses are interdicted or closed.
Right.
And we just filed today in Minnesota a case that really brings up the whole notion of abortion as a constitutional right. We claim it is not a constitutional right. And that they're using up precious personal protective equipment at the expense of people taking care of COVID-19 victims in dire straits, perhaps in danger of losing their lives, and yet allowing abortion folks to continue to take life without interference and without even social distancing requirements. So, yes, I mean, and of course in Illinois there are efforts being made, and a federal judge has already ruled that our Governor Pritzker's order is illegal. It's limited to not to exceed 30 days. He's tried to extend it twice. So this is going up on appeal. There are other cases being filed, another one today, perhaps another one tomorrow. I think Sally has asked us to help her in another lawsuit. So, you know, these issues are hanging fire, and overhanging all of it is this question whether Roe v. Wade is going to survive with the present split on the U.S. Supreme Court. We're up there in a couple of cases, urging that a lot of the pro-abortion rulings be overturned or limited. And that's part of our case in Minnesota brought today, where we say that Roe v. Wade should be declared less than a constitutional right, that indeed it's been criticized and is with the current balance on the court, we don't think it'll be upheld. We're urging the court to so rule.
Right.
We got a wonderfully hospitable, and I hope he's a judge who was appointed recently and had clerked for Judge Scalia up there on the High Court. Sure. Our lawyer arguing that case was himself a clerk for Justice Scalia. So we're hoping to make an impact.
So I got two more questions for you. The first one is with regards to David Daleiden. I know Thomas More Society, with your leadership, has been doing a phenomenal job with David Daleiden. Again, he was the one who revealed that they were selling baby body parts in these abortion facilities. And then instead of prosecuting Planned Parenthood for the evil work that they're doing, they prosecute the undercover investigator, David Daleiden. So tell us what's going on with David Daleiden. I know that's been going on for a while. And so what's the new news on that?
Well, there are late developments, and of course, out in San Francisco, where we're fighting these cases, the developments have not been good. But we think ultimately we're going to prevail, and we think we're setting up these cases for very good appeals. You know, in the Schuyler case, as I mentioned a while ago, so we've been through this routine. You know, we lost our first appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court 9-0. You couldn't lose any worse than that. And if we hadn't lost so badly that first appeal, which was on the racketeering statute and its scope, I don't think we would have been in a position to win the next two times around. That's how these cases go. It's largely political cases. So sometimes the worse the result in the trial court, the better your appeal. And indeed, just today, by coincidence, Judge Orrick in the civil case, which is also a racketeering case, the abortion industry loves to invoke the Racketeering Act, Judge Orrick in San Francisco entered a final judgment, 2.3 or 2.2, somewhere in that vicinity, $1 million against David and his people who worked with him.
Wow.
But believe me, when that starts the timetable, we've got 30 days to move to overturn it. We will so move. We don't cherish much hope at all that Judge Orrick is going to overturn his own ruling. But I think we've got one heck of an appeal. And we can go into a lot of detail about that, but let me tell you, I think we got a good appeal. The criminal case. Interestingly, the judge threw out almost half of the charges, felony charges, against David and Sandra Merritt, his main helper. And we now have a chance to go before a different judge.
Excellent.
Well,
maybe.
If that judge
Hopefully that's a good thing.
And we've just filed, we're, I think tomorrow, filing, or maybe it's Friday, I think we're filing a what they call a 995 motion under California criminal practice to have this second judge take another look, and maybe he'll throw out, she should throw out all the charges.
Right.
And, failing that, we'll take another appeal. And if we can't prevail on that appeal, we'll have a jury trial on these 10 or 11 felony charges that still are pending. That'll put David, if convicted, in San Quentin Penitentiary for maybe as long as 10 years, along with Sandra. So these are very challenging cases. But, you know, you mentioned the sale of baby body parts. Let me tell you, the evidence in this criminal case brought out in no uncertain terms that not only sale of body parts in violation of federal law is at stake here, but also infanticide. It's uncredible, but the evidence was clear and unrebutted. The state made no effort to rebut the testimony that babies are born alive and then harvested for their body parts. The major media is not publishing this. The Christian media has tried to, but it's not getting enough play in the media. This awful truth takes us back to the worst excesses of Nazi Germany, and that's happening in our American civilization, and it's got to be stopped. It's just a horror, and we hope that the publicity, Justice Brandeis, the famous Supreme Court justice, once said, the best of disinfectants is sunlight. The more this truth, horrible truth, gets known, the quicker it is that we'll put a stop to this.
So my second question was about giving us hope, but I think you just answered that. I think, Tom, with your work at the Thomas More Society, and you have attorneys all around the entire country, from state to state, working to bring an end to abortion nationwide, but it starts locally. And so I thank you, Tom, and all the attorneys who are working with you for all of your work and for being on the broadcast tonight. Thank you very much.
We thank you and all the St. Louis folks for doing so much for our pro-life movement. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, for being on the call today, on the broadcast, that is. And thank you so much for your advice. One of the things that, as we go even deeper into this Building Hope webcast, we really want to talk about the base of exactly what we're doing in the pro-life movement. If we're building hope, we need a base, and that base is Jesus Christ, and that base is prayer. And that first and foremost is, when did we start? Way back in 2009, it was 40 days for life, 40 days of prayer and fasting, peaceful vigil, and grassroots community outreach. And to have a discussion about that today is a dear friend of mine, Renee Gibbs, who has been with us almost from day one and has had some of her own victories as well. Renee, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Brian. It is so good to be here. I remember the day when you were in my living room when you were just getting started.
Do some work there at the Lutheran Seminary in the St. Louis region. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jeff has been teaching there for almost 30 years, and we're the advisors for the Seminary Life Team, which is a pro-life group that helps our students
Jeff, your husband, and also just the community as a whole?
Well, I've been on the sidewalk a long time, and just going there, seeing the women and sometimes the men going in, it's so poignant. And then to see the great success that your interns have had on the sidewalk with so many turnarounds. Now it's the quote St. Louis method that is so successful, and you're sharing that around the country. But just to be there and pray and support the interns, and we know that that's so powerful to be down there and to get to take other students and their wives and sometimes their kids down there to pray. It feels wonderful to be part of the group, part of a team, and with 40 Days for Life being one of the congregations or groups supporting it, and being able to support you in that way during those 40 days, a real concentrated effort.
Right. So tell me about, so you've been a Adopt a Day coordinator. That's when a group would take a day and bring a group together. So tell me about your communication with your group, and what does an Adopt a Day look like? And what would you say to someone who's considering doing an Adopt a Day or joining us for our next 40 Days for Life?
Yeah, I would encourage them to do it by offering to sponsor, adopt either a half a day or a day. We promise to have at least 2 people down there on the sidewalk for each hour from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And if you have a church or, in our case, the seminary, to be able to say, look, just come down and pray with me for 1 hour. And their eyes are opened, and they really appreciate that opportunity. Depending on the size of your church, and if people have gone before, it could be harder, but once people have gone, they want to go back because it meant so much to them. And so we were grateful to do it, and especially this year, being on this special day, the March on the Arch.
Oh, you were on the March on the Arch Day. Oh my gosh.
I was going to say we had people there early praying in the morning, and then I came about 11 for my time, and things were ramping up as you were getting set up, and so many people from around the area and further were there for the March on the Arch, and then others of our people stayed afterwards after the group left for the march and continued out our time, and some of us did both, prayed and also walked. So it was both a somber time as well as a jubilant time to be with the group.
Right. So thank you for being on the call. I did want to ask you one personal question with all of these different people watching this evening, but I know you have a personal victory that you've been battling for a long time now. So tell me about that and how that can help give us all hope even during this crazy pandemic.
Oh, I certainly have hope, and thank you for asking. I had breast cancer last spring, a year ago, and so went through treatment, chemo, surgery, more infusions, and just this week had my last infusion and was declared cancer-free, and so grateful to God. Yes, yeah, He was the one, the prayers of so many people, including people from Coalition and cards and ways that you all supported me as well. It was not a journey to do alone, but with so many Christians there encouraging and praying and holding us up for Jeff and me, and just giving us hope, the hope we have in Christ. And he's the great physician for that.
Thank you, Renee, for sharing. You're incredible, and sorry, I could talk for hours with you, Renee, but we'll have to we will have to follow up again But thank you so much for being on the broadcast tonight. You are inspiring to me. I know you're a fighter, and you work really, really hard for life. And children have been saved. Babies have been saved because of your work, and because of the prayers of your group and everything you're doing. So thank you for that, and thank you to everyone who's been doing 40 Days for Life as well.
It's a real privilege, and thank you for having me to join in this celebration of hope. And I look forward to hearing what the announcements are later in this program. So thank you, Brian. And please thank your whole staff. The interns inspire me so much when I see them at your banquets or on the sidewalk. So kind and sincere, and that's why God is using them to help save lives.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Renee, and God bless you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
So one of the things we've always been really worried about is it specifically legal for us to even do a lot of the pro-life work that we are doing, whether it be on the sidewalk, at our homes and pregnancy centers, or around the nation? A lot of uncertainty out there. And so with us today is one of my heroes, a legal expert in her own right, Miss Sally Wagenmaker. Welcome to the Webcast.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's a delight to be here. I'm glad to talk with you and answer your questions. Would you like me to dive in, or?
So one of so our big question of most of our participants, our donors, our volunteers, and our staff is it legal for us to go out there and do this sidewalk counseling work, or even pray out on the sidewalks?
Yeah, thanks. I think that's been as you said, an issue under some different laws over the years. So this, in some ways, it's nothing new, whether you have bubble laws or other restrictions trying to keep folks off the streets, off the sidewalks, from alongside the fence to say, no, you can't pray. Of course, there's intensified concern about public safety. So much of that has been addressed through social distancing, face masks, other precautions. So fundamentally speaking, is it legal? Well, I'd like to address both Illinois and then Missouri, because I think that's where people are really thinking about. In Illinois, we are under the stay-at-home, shelter-at-home order, which applies to everybody unless you're an essential function. There's two problems with that. One is that the governor has exceeded his authority at this point to have a 30-day maximum stay-at-home order. There's litigation going on about that. The other is the question of whether it's even constitutional because there's so many loopholes. And so I think for pro-lifers who want to go out and pray at abortion facilities, there's questions of that. Is it legal? Well, not in the grand scheme of things of being beyond the legalities of these orders. And so I think that you have the right to go out and to pray, but know that there may be some challenge with that. I know, Brian, you're going to talk to Tom Brecka about how the Thomas More Society that he leads, how they're addressing that. So there are restrictions right now, but I don't think they're legal in Illinois. In Missouri, there's a statewide order that's very relaxed, and so I think it's legal under the statewide order. Under the St. Louis order, it's very interesting, and maybe that gives us the kind of the overall consideration here, even though it's just St. Louis. In St. Louis, there's an order that says you are allowed to go out to perform tasks essential to the health and safety of individuals and their family members, their household members, and even their pets. So if you, as a pro-lifer, say, you know what, we're here to protect the unborn children, as well as the mothers and the other family members who are involved, that's absolutely an essential task to the health and safety of both unborn and born people within that,
right,
the construct of personhood. So absolutely, I think that everybody may legally go out and pray, but you may get some pushback and counsels, people going to and from abortion clinics, but you're going to get some pushback because on their faces, these orders wouldn't necessarily apply to say, sure, you can go out and do that.
Sure. So one of the things, we actually have been out to the Fairview Heights abortion facility there in Illinois, and we have had some interactions with some police officers out here already, and honestly, they've been very friendly, very courteous. We've been accused of touching everyone as they walk into the abortion facility or drive in, and we don't touch anybody. But sometimes, people exaggerate and spread some lies about us. But
I think that's important too, from a perspective of safety. I mean, I just talked about what the law says, but, we want to do things winsomely for Christ, for the unborn, for the care for all people involved and touched by abortion. And so certainly, practicing social distancing, face masks, other precautions. I often tell my clients, when in doubt or to be careful, videotape what you're doing so that if someone said, hey, this is how it worked, this is what actually happened, you can say, oh no, here's my video. And, here we were socially distanced and whatnot. So regardless of what the law says, we want to be very careful. People are skittish right now, and rightfully so.
So if you just for a moment here took your legal hat off and put your American hat on, and just tell me what your bigger concerns are broadly with regards to coronavirus, the pro-life movement, and everything else that's going on in our country right now. A lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, probably the best way to answer that for me is really with the view of a trifecta of let's think about this from a medical perspective, an economic perspective, and a civil liberties perspective. I'm not a doctor or an economist. But I think so much of the rhetoric and the dialogue and divisiveness has been to silo those concerns, and we really can't. We have to look at it all together, especially from the perspective of standing up for life, for human life, for flourishing, for the roots of our democracy. And so there is no exception to the First Amendment. It's not that you have the right to assemble and to seek redress and to engage in free speech, except when there's a pandemic. That's not at all the case. And it's interesting with some of these orders, especially in Illinois, this litigation that's going on. There's the two representatives who've gotten temporary restraining orders saying that the governor exceeded his authority. So much of this is based on the Illinois Department of Public Health's pandemic plan. You can Google that. You can find the pandemic emergency plan that was passed in March of 2020. So just now, where they mapped all that out. And so, Civics 101 is we have three branches of government. We have the executive, legislature, and the courts. So the courts are coming in to say, well, this is what we can do. This is what a governor can do. Here's an agency that's thought things through for Illinois. St. Louis and Missouri have their own considerations. So as we think about kind of this balance, it's not that we're deciding whether we can buy groceries instead of somebody's going to die. It's really about how do we address this in a very broad way where we can honor each other's concerns, and nobody has the right answers. I mean, this is such a catastrophic, difficult thing. But it does make me wonder, especially within the balance of powers, when you have governors that, like we have right now, we're in Illinois, in Kentucky, where they're so strongly anti-life, pro-abortion, saying, well, we need to protect life. I find that disingenuous, and I just really want to encourage the democratic process so that when people say we want to protect life, we can really push back and say, well, okay, but if we're going to protect life, let's protect the least of these. Let's really think about this and think about our civil liberties within that construct, not as something that's kind of that binary or false choice, really. It's this or that. There are no false choices. It's really a concerted effort to figure out what's best overall.
So one of the things we were talking about, I believe,
category right now. So as these laws are supposed to be followed, if you're pregnant, you should be home. You should be taking care of your baby.
Absolutely, Sally. Anything else that you think would be helpful for those people who are on the webcast today?
50-something years, I don't know that I've ever felt a stronger pull to stand up for liberty and for life than I have these days. I've never marched in any kind of protest or picketing, except when it comes to pro-life. And I'm very thankful to be able to be part of March for Life activities. And so I think that this is the time. Now is the time, as all of your faithful or maybe your new pro-life folks know, this is the time to stand up for life. I know there's a rally in Chicago and in Springfield, Illinois this Friday at noon. I'm not sure about in Missouri. And again, that's not my usual. I know you're going to talk to Tom Brecka of Thomas More Society. If folks want to be part of lawsuits to find these laws unconstitutional, otherwise illegal, that's something to think about. But again, doing so in a way that's very kind and compassionate, not in a way that folks are going to consider that as threatening, from a medical perspective or some other moral perspective. As with all of the pro-life world, we want to kind of arc above that trajectory and to say, no, we are for life, we are for love, and we are for each other. We are not against anybody.
Well, thank you very much, Sally. You inspire me to continue to fight the good fight, and you are building hope. And I can't thank you enough for your support of the Coalition for Life, the work that we've been doing, both legally, but then also your prayers and your ongoing support of our efforts. So thank you very much, Sally, and God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you too. Thank you.
We were so blessed to have Sally on the call with us on the broadcast this evening, and she really did give me hope, and I hope she gave each one of you hope as well. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and make a comment in the comments below on buildinghope.life. Go ahead and make a comment there below. Tell us how you think we're doing so far. If you have questions, we can answer them right there in the chat right below this video. So one of the things we talked about is, can we do pro-life work? Can we go out to the sidewalk? Is it legal? Is it constitutional? What about our First Amendment rights to be able to go out and talk to people who are about to take the life of their little unborn child? What does that mean? And so one of my good friends, Mr. Brian Niehaus, will be joining us here in just a second. I met Brian about a year ago when he joined our team right out on the sidewalk. In fact, they called him Brian from the sidewalk. It was fantastic. But Brian has really taken charge over in the Fairview Heights region and taken a very specific look at the Fairview Heights Planned Parenthood, and is in charge of our sidewalk counseling efforts here in Fairview Heights. So Brian, welcome to the broadcast. So now we're going back and forth. Brian, it's great. So one of the things I've always wanted to know is, what brought you to the sidewalk? What motivates you? I know that you have a very unique story of what motivates you to do sidewalk counseling. So tell me about that first.
So in August of 2018, we had a little blessing come into our lives. We had my cousin, who we didn't know where she was in the foster care system. We actually found her right after my uncle passed away. And because of her, I got to see the beauty of life and how her mother, who was in poverty and came out, and she could have easily went to Planned Parenthood, but she decided to have life for her child. And that child had brought me so much joy and gladness. And because of that, inspired me to really see the value of all life. And that October was the first 40 Days for Life campaign I've ever attended. And I live a little ways away from the sidewalk, lived in Wentzville, so it's about 55 minutes to get to the sidewalk on St. Louis. So I decided to go out there one day and pray with my church. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with standing for the unborn and had great companionship with the sidewalk counselors out there and other people 40 days. So I decided to come up for once a week and rearrange stuff at my other place of employment at the time. And one day a week grew to 2 times a week, to 3 times a week, to 4 times a week. And then from there, I applied for the internship and became a sidewalk counselor.
Well, very good. And you were with us for a little while, and then when Fairview Heights opened, you were our top choice to have as a full-time programs coordinator over in the Fairview Heights region. And so we thank you for your efforts. And so you hit the ground running. Tell us about what we did on day one when the Fairview Heights Planned Parenthood opened and what we've done since then.
Right. So I remember even before that, a few days before, when they had their big ribbon cutting. And it was just so beautiful to see that no pro-life group organized the prayer vigil that day, and there were so many other pro-life individuals, and we actually got several volunteers, and a couple of them became Life Choice interns themselves from that ribbon cutting. And Wednesday they opened up 8 o'clock. We were out there 8 o'clock sidewalk counseling, and it was just a joy to see that we could still be there and stand for life right at their big opening day. And like I said with that before, the counselors and the volunteers really made that happen over there. We've had a volunteer about every shift that we've had has had at least one volunteer, and that's huge for us because that can help us cover not only the Fairview Heights sidewalk, but also the sidewalk in St. Louis.
So thank you for sharing that amazing story, Brian. Tell me about just what's happening out on the sidewalk with regards to our volunteers and our staff and our interns who are out there, and what kind of successes are you seeing?
Right, so since we started October 23rd, their opening day, we've had a volunteer every shift we've been out there, which is huge. It gives us more resources for not only the Fairview Heights sidewalk, but also in St. Louis. And of the clients that came in since we were there opening day, we've seen 85 of them turn around life-affirming resources and 150 referrals for other resources for those clients and individuals.
Absolutely. So, Brian, tell me specifically about how this all works. So we were there on day one, and we've seen quite a few turnarounds since day one with, my understanding is an 80% stop rate out there as well. So tell me, how does this whole coronavirus and stay-at-home orders and everything, how has that affected the work there out on the sidewalk?
Right. So ever since Corona, we decided to go back out there, and we got to maintain that social distancing, 6 feet apart. We're out there with masks, goggles. We wash our hands after each interaction with the clients, and we're just taking all these special precautions because Corona, no Corona, babies are still dying inside Planned Parenthood.
Right. And so my understanding is that Planned Parenthood is taking the lives of over 300 children alone in the Fairview Heights Planned Parenthood facility every single month. Every month is another 300 children made in the image and likeness of God who are now, their lives are being taken in this, what they're calling the mega abortion facility. So, Brian, we're back out on the sidewalk, right? So we're out there. People can join us out on the sidewalk. I believe it's 3 days a week. And so tell me, as we continue to grow back. Oh, geez, coronavirus. Okay. So now as we're back out on the sidewalk, tell me what's next as we continue to grow our presence both on the sidewalk in Fairview Heights, but then also as we go back to St. Louis as well.
Right, so actually during this pandemic, Planned Parenthood has extended their hours from 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. So we need more volunteer sidewalk counselors to go out there. We need to combat this as hard as we can and help those women. We need prayer support. Come up and stay in your car, hold the sign up and pray for these women as they come in. There's so many different ways that we can be there for these women and for these unborn children without having to break a Corona law.
Sure. A Corona law. That's a new one. I like that, Brian. So the theme of this webcast tonight is building hope. And I know that there's so many people out there in despair and without hope. And we know that people without hope and don't feel like they have any other options are going to think about abortion more than anything else. So for those who are watching the broadcast tonight, what can you say to give them hope as we confront these obstacles in the pro-life movement?
Keep praying. Keep praying. The Lord hears your prayers inside, in front of an abortion facility, in your church, the same way. Keep praying. Just trust in His will, and keep continuing to support us if you can, and come out and volunteer with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Brian, for your amazing work in Fairview Heights and the amazing work you're doing to make sure that the sidewalk is always covered and there's always someone there to make sure that there are life-affirming options for women who are going in to take the life of their children. Thank you, Brian, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Brian.
And so now we turn locally back to where abortions are happening right here in the Fairview Heights region and across the Southern Illinois region, to my good friend Celeste Benoit. And so we are so, so excited to have you on. Celeste, welcome. So, Celeste, we cannot thank you enough. Right as Planned Parenthood started to come to Fairview Heights, I know there was a small location in Fairview Heights, but then they built this so-called mega abortion facility here in the Fairview Heights region. And so what were your thoughts, and what have you been doing since then?
I have been praying for many years and asking what I was supposed to do. What did our Lord want of me? And so 3 years ago, a friend called and said, can you come 1 hour a week and pray outside this Planned Parenthood facility in Fairview Heights? And it was the original one. And that was 40 Days for Life. And I said, well, sure, of course I can. And it's just no one ever asked me before. So I started that. And then last year, as you all were surprised too, we had 2 weeks notice. It was really hard in the fall. And we heard that this huge abortion facility was opening in Fairview Heights. And so I went to a couple of rallies you all had. I went to the prayer rally, and another young man named Brian was walking through the crowd, and he gave me a brochure. And it was a brochure about Coalition for Life. And all I knew about you guys was I had seen you in St. Louis if I was driving through the city. And I would see someone with an orange vest stopping cars, and I would see people praying outside. And I always thought, I should be doing something. I should be doing something. And so just getting that brochure, I looked at it. I came home. I told my husband, I go, look at this. I go, this is it. This is what we're supposed to do, because it's right here now, Brian. It's in our neighborhood. And that was no excuse that I couldn't drive across the river. But you guys are amazing, because you drive across the river to our side, even though you pretty much eradicated abortion in Missouri, which is amazing. So we're so grateful for what you do.
Well, thank you, Celeste. And so absolutely, we could not do what we do here in Fairview Heights without local support. And I think that's one of the really important things we need to recognize, is that the St. Louis region is more than just Missouri or Illinois. It's a larger region, and we need to realize that women are coming from Missouri over to Illinois now. A lot of politicians up in Springfield and up in Chicago made some decisions to basically remove all restrictions of abortion in Illinois. And so many Missouri women, sadly, are coming over to Fairview Heights. And so I see this not as something that's an Illinois or Missouri issue, but instead it's a region issue. And so, yeah, it takes a while, and we do drive. But I thank you for being that local presence, how important it is to have the local residents. What could you tell those individuals who are watching today, who live in the Fairview Heights region or anywhere in Southern Illinois? What would you tell them?
You all are a godsend, because when we are sidewalk counseling, I can look someone in the eye and I can honestly tell them that we have resources. We don't just want to save a baby, which is really important. We want to change lives. And you all make it possible for me to look at someone and tell them with my whole heart and know that there are resources there for them, and we're going to help them change their lives. And so maybe someone doesn't have the outgoing personality to go out, or maybe they're afraid to go sidewalk counsel. I understand that. But I feel like it is our responsibility to give in some way or another, your time, your talent, or your treasure. And we hear that all the time, don't we? So
yes, we do.
If you can't go there, if you don't feel called to do that, I really am asking people to search their heart to give to this, because I personally have seen lives change. And I have personally seen when women come out of there who have had abortions and their eyes are dead. It's so hard to see that. And I've had people go in and they just decided to go in, but they took a brochure, and I've had people sit in the parking lot and then turn around and accept our help. And they thanked us. And when they leave after getting their ultrasound and everything, and they begin that journey of accepting our help, they drive by us and they wave and they roll down their window. I had people go, "Thank you." And that is so amazing to know that you guys are changing lives. So I feel so blessed to be part of this.
I cannot thank you enough for being on the broadcast today, and for your generosity, and for everyone else who's watching today. But thank you, Celeste, for sharing. And so as we transition from our amazing work on the sidewalk, one of the things that's really important is what happens after we get to talk with them, maybe refer them to a pregnancy center or some other amazing ministry. But what are we doing beyond just the sidewalk? And so joining me today is such an amazing, beautiful, good friend of mine, Rachel Hiley. Rachel started way back in the day as a sidewalk counselor right out there on the streets, one of our best sidewalk counselors we have out there, and was also going to the seminary to definitely learn her deaconess skills. And so we are so blessed to have Rachel as our Director of Client Services for our Women's Care Connect Pregnancy Center. And so Rachel, welcome to the Building Hope call, the Building Hope webcast today. Welcome. So Rachel, tell me about what is Women's Care Connect? I know we've mentioned it several times in other broadcasts and other things we're doing. We see it on literature, but tell me exactly what that is.
Connect is the pregnancy resource center that was conceived by the Coalition for Life after seeing the need for it out on the sidewalk. As you mentioned before, we interact with these women. We get to refer them to some really great ministries, but what happens next? Well, that's where Women's Care Connect was able to come in and offer a little bit of follow-up for the women that we meet on the sidewalk, to be able to reconnect with them, reach out and see if they were able to get everything they needed, and how can we, help further your choice for life and this hard time that you're in. What can we do to help? So that's kind of where we started out back in 2015, and from there, we've just grown slowly but surely, adding more and more services, more ways to be able to help the women we serve. And now, as I mentioned before, we're a full-blown pregnancy resource center. We work with women throughout their entire pregnancy, starting from that moment that they are in crisis, that they just find out that they're pregnant. They're not really sure what to do about it. Maybe they're abortion minded and they're at Planned Parenthood ready to have that procedure done when they meet our sidewalk counselors, and then get referred to Women's Care Connect. And so from there, we just work with them. We help them get connected to the wealth of resources that are here in St. Louis. We do options coaching to help them really come to that life choice for themselves and for their child, and follow them, walk alongside them throughout the rest of their pregnancy and after.
Right, and so tell me, in the last 6 months or so, we've added some additional services and additional capacity for Women's Care Connect. Tell me about some of those things. I know we talked about it at our banquet last year, but what exactly have we been growing and doing over the last maybe 6 months or so?
6 months to a year have seen a lot of growth in Women's Care Connect. We've been able to expand our on-site facilities to include a coaching room, which is huge. You may not understand the significance of that, so let me tell you a little bit. Prior to having this room on site, we had to go out into the community to meet with all of these women because there wasn't a place in our office that they could come and talk about what was going on and really open up and let their emotions show. We were meeting them at bread co's or restaurants, or even in some cases going to their homes.
Well, we can't even do that now, even if we wanted to, right?
But we couldn't meet them out in the community forever. We needed to grow. So now we have an on-site coaching room, and it's beautiful. It's very relaxing atmosphere. It really allows us to welcome these women in and invite them to take a breath, emotionally, spiritually, physically, take that moment to breathe in, unburden themselves, talk about what's going on, have a listening ear, and have that private moment and go through that options coaching that we offer that really helps them to come to a life affirming decision for themselves.
Well, and then we're also adding, or have already added, free pregnancy tests as well. We're doing that in our in our Maryland Heights. We have two Heights, Maryland Heights, Fairview Heights. So in our Maryland Heights office there in St. Louis County, we're able to do life coaching or options coaching in addition to the pregnancy testing. Now, give me a little statistics. So tell me, how many people are you serving? What is Women's Care Connect doing, growing and beyond what we're currently doing? What does that look like for statistics, for a numbers person? What's going on there?
Women's Care Connect started way back in 2015, and in the last 5 years, we have been able to witness and celebrate the birth of at least 260 babies through our program. That's not including all the women that we work with for a short time, but then they're ready to go off on their own, and we don't necessarily get to celebrate that end birth with them. But at least 260 that we know of, women have gone through our program in the last 5 years, have brought their beautiful babies into this world, and are enjoying those lives now. We have had, I think, about 25 babies born just this year in 2020 alone. And we're currently working with about 93 pregnant women. So that sets us up for a lot of babies to be born this year, and our numbers to continue to increase as we're reaching more and more women throughout the St. Louis region. Brian, you mentioned, advancements that we've had in the last year. We also expanded our marketing to include a website. So we're no longer just reaching those women on the sidewalk. We're still reaching them as well. But also women are able to find us online and give us a call or reach out to us via our website without ever even having to go to Planned Parenthood, which is huge. And it's an awesome way for us to reach new members of the community that maybe we weren't reaching before, and be able to offer services to a wider range of women.
Right, and I believe as part of that website was also the internet advertising that goes along with that. So we're working with a team of people who are experts in being able to advertise directly to those abortion-minded women who are looking on their cell phones, looking on how they can get an abortion, these types of things. And sure enough, Women's Care Connect pops up right there with Planned Parenthood and all the other abortion providers. So then they'll have an opportunity to come to Women's Care Connect before they even make it to the abortion facility, before they even make it to our amazing sidewalk counselors out there. Now, that's enough in and of itself. That's a lot of work that you and your team, I know there's a team of people that you're working with, along with a lot of great volunteers as well. But I know that there's one more thing that you wanted to announce today, and you get to be the big first announcement here. I'm so excited about this announcement. So tell us, where are you standing, and show us something, some big announcement here.
With everybody. As we've talked about, Women's Care Connect specializes in being able to fill the gaps and connect women to those needed resources for free, because that's something that is so important for those who are financially struggling in this area to get the service they need without having to pay a lot of money. And that's what we specialize, is getting them connected to a lot of those things. And one of those services that we haven't yet been able to provide, I am so pleased to announce we're going to start providing. And let me just rotate my camera here and show you guys our very, very exciting brand new ultrasound machine. And with this amazing tool, this fantastic technology that we have in this world, we will be able to allow these women to see the first glimpse of their child, to see the heartbeat, to see the little face, the fingers, the toes, for them to be able to really realize the reality of the life that is within them. So we are so blessed to have this ultrasound machine with a lot of help from the Knights of Columbus and a lot of work that's gone into this over the last several months to be able to begin offering this service, including this brand new ultrasound room that I'm standing in. Let me give you a little tour. So you can see our ultrasound machine, brand new, our medical table over there. We got freshly painted walls to look nice and new. Brand new sink and cabinet over here so that we can be able to provide all these medical services, and some beautiful brand new wood flooring as well, just to make a nice, inviting, and clean medical space for us to be able to offer these ultrasounds.
Wow, that's incredible, Rachel, and I can't thank you enough for working behind the scenes. I know there's a lot that goes into that. I know obviously the machine is expensive, and we thank the Knights of Columbus for working so hard to make sure that is there. But then the operation, the policies, the procedures, all of the medical records, everything that has to go into that. And then also, I think there's one last piece that we're pulling together. And I believe that's the training. Tell us about that training so we can get this amazing piece of technology off the ground and ultimately saving lives. What does that piece look like?
Work has gone into this, developing the policies, the procedures, getting this room together, obtaining the machine. But arguably one of the most important parts is yet to be accomplished, and that is our nurses need to complete their training to be equipped to use the machine and to show these women the babies and be able to perform the ultrasound scans. So in order to do that, they need that hands-on experience. So what we need is about 50 pregnant women who are willing to volunteer and come in and serve as models, and let our nurses, along with their instructor, practice ultrasound scanning and to practice looking for those babies and finding everything they need to see. It's one of those things that we had scheduled for last month, but then all of this coronavirus stuff came in, and so it's been delayed a little bit, but we're working really, really hard to make sure that that training is accomplished by the end of summer so that we can be adding this service to Women's Care Connect as soon as humanly possible to be able to show these women their babies.
Absolutely, absolutely. And what woman wouldn't like just another look at their baby, right? So be on the lookout for that. Hopefully in the next month or so, once a lot of these restrictions are lifted. Sadly, a lot of this can't be done with some of these restrictions that are being placed upon us and the Coalition for Life, and both in St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and also in Illinois. There's a lot of restrictions. So once a lot of these things will be lifted, we don't quite know when that'll be, but I'm really excited about getting that training done, that training complete, having about 50 women come and be able to give them free scans as well, and then use this tool to ultimately save lives and ultimately be able to show a woman in crisis who's considering abortion, show them their baby on the screen, an ultrasound screen, and also give them an opportunity to hear the heartbeat of their little baby. We can't ask for a better thing, a better opportunity for these women. Thank you again, Rachel, for sharing that huge news with us, and thank you for your leadership in the Women's Care Connect program. You are really leading the way and helping to save lives both in St. Louis on the Missouri side, but then also our region-wide, helping women who are in crisis, who are looking for help, looking for an answer for their abortion crisis. And I know that you and your team are providing that answer every single day, 24/7, answering that phone when they're calling, or as we meet them out on the sidewalk, following up with them every single day. So thank you for your dedication. Thank you for sharing this huge news with us. And we are excited to have you on our team.
Thanks, Brian. It's been a joy and a true humbling experience to be on this team.
Well, we have had some incredible announcements this evening with the ultrasound machine, and so much success happening through Women's Care Connect, sidewalk counseling, and so many other things. And so we turn our attention to now the second announcement. So instead of telling you about it, we're going to show it to you. So I'm going to turn over to Josh now with another camera, and we're going to show you exactly what our next big announcement is. So one of the things we're really talking about is what is it going to take to be able to fight this abortion provider in Fairview Heights, Illinois. And so one of the things is we need a base camp. We need to know, we need to have a team of where we can be. So we now have a base camp. We now have a signed contract for this space we're in right now. We are in Fairview Heights, Illinois. We have been the whole time, and with a great crew working hard here. So it doesn't look like too much right now, but we'll be pulling together and having this built out here in Fairview Heights for our brand new office here in Fairview Heights. So prayer, reflection, sidewalk counseling, 40 Days for Life, and so many other individuals who can then come together in this space. But even more than the space and more than the little makeshift studio we have here today is this one really important fact. So hopefully Josh can get me over here and we can show you what is going on here. And sure enough, we are right across the parking lot from Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood here in Fairview Heights has claimed that they want to take 11,000 children's lives in 1 year. And they're currently up to about 300 to 350 children's lives every single month. We are now 132 feet away from Planned Parenthood to give full support of sidewalk counselors, a Mosaic Pregnancy Center, mobile center, and also some parking for prayer volunteers and our sidewalk counselors, and all of you for having events out here as well. This is a really, really important moment. We have been searching for years in the St. Louis region to be able to have a space next to Planned Parenthood with no success. But here we are just a few months after Planned Parenthood has opened, and we are in fact have a space here that we can call home, that we can look over and see exactly what's happening with Planned Parenthood. So I think this is critically important, and to talk to us about how important this is my good friend Abby Johnson.
Thank you so much for having me on. You know, it's really important because, as most of you know, proximity matters. When I left Planned Parenthood, I didn't have to go far to reach out to the people who had promised me for all those years, for 8 years, that they would help. I mean, I went right next door. I could have literally walked to their office. They were the people that I knew I could trust. And if they had been 10 miles away, 15 miles away, even 5 miles away, I don't know that I would have, had the courage to go to them. Maybe in that 5 miles, I would have said, I don't know if this is the right move. I don't know if this is the right decision. But I didn't have time to change my mind because I just went right next door to their office. And that decision changed my life for the better. And so I'm so excited about this new office location for you guys. I think it is going to change everything, not just for the women who are walking into those abortion clinic doors, but also for the workers. It's just providing just this added intention of hope for everyone who walks through those clinic doors.
Well, thank you again, Abby, for being on the call. What can you tell for the regular pro-lifer here who is listening in? There's a pandemic and the coronavirus and everything happening here in the United States and around the world now. What can you tell them? Our theme today is building hope. So what kind of hope can we offer to them?
Well, I mean, hope is always available and it's always there. And, we can't give up hope just because we're in a difficult situation. Women are still having abortions. And while women are still having abortions, we must be on the front lines fighting abortion. And, I know that, there's a tendency to, especially for people in Missouri, to say, yay, huge victory, abortions have been slashed in Missouri. But guess what? There's still a battle to be fought. And I'm not saying that that's not a victory. Yes, that's absolutely a victory. But just right across the state line, there's still abortions taking place. So we still have a battle that needs to be fought. And while there's a big battle, there's also huge hope. We are seeing lives that are being saved. We are seeing conversions taking place. And so we can't be discouraged. We have to keep fighting. And we're seeing hope in the faces of these children and these mothers who are being saved from abortion, who are being saved from the deception, from the lies of the enemy. And, and it's okay. If you feel discouraged one day, it's okay to take a step back, to take a break, to re-energize your soul. But we can't stay gone for long because there's too many lives on the line.
Well, Abby, I think people are very encouraged by the work that you've been doing through the movie, the book, and then also your newest ministry, And Then There Were None. And we're so thankful for you fighting on the side for life. Thank you so much. And I think you had one special announcement. So we had two announcements today. We have a brand new ultrasound machine. We have a brand new facility right next to Planned Parenthood. But you had one more announcement for us. What is that?
Yes, I'm so excited to announce to you guys that there is a very special all or nothing matching challenge of $157,200 that will save more lives than ever this year. And it is for the work of the Coalition for Life for you guys. So $157,200 all or nothing matching challenge. I'm so excited about this, guys. I'm on social media a lot, and I get all of the emails from the abortion industry still. And I'm looking at the emails that are coming in. I'm looking at the different things that they're fundraising for. And you know what they're fundraising for? They're fundraising for women to get abortions during this COVID pandemic. They're fundraising for women to get abortions across state lines. They're fundraising for lodging, for hotels, for gas money, for the procedures themselves. They're funding for the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent children. And here you have an amazing opportunity to fund for life. And it's a matching challenge. So what's even more exciting is that if you guys will really get excited about this, and if you guys will match this over $157,000 challenge, you are going to raise over $300,000, and that is so exciting. I mean, that's even more than exciting. I don't even know the right word, but exciting is not even a big enough word. But it's tremendous, and I can't even explain to you the amount of lives that are going to be saved.
Well, again, thank you, Abby, for sharing that news with us and for being on the webcast with us this evening. Any final words as individuals are looking at the website? There's a link just below it. There's a one-time gift that they can make tonight, and so as they're making or considering that gift tonight, is there any last words you might be able to share with them this evening?
I just want to encourage people to give, to sacrifice. You know, we are in very interesting times. We have, people being, I'm sorry, can we just re-record that part?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
My daughter's playing piano. My daughter's playing piano, so I know it just got loud. Okay.
I love it. I love this. You did phenomenal so far.
Okay, so I'll start over.
All right. I won't ask the question. I'll just let you go.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I just want to encourage people to give, to be prayerfully, really sacrificial in your giving tonight. In the 10 years that I have been out of the abortion industry, I have never seen the abortion movement be so frenzied. Just in such a panic to ensure the right to kill unborn children. They are so desperate to kill babies. And they are manipulating women in ways that I've never seen carried out before. They are coercing these vulnerable women. And now is really the time, more than ever, that the pro-life movement has got to step up and sacrifice for these sweet moms and their precious babies. And so I'm encouraging you to please, don't just be generous in your giving tonight, but please be sacrificial, because there are literally lives on the line, and they will be rescued because of your gift.
Well, thank you very much, Abby, for being on the call. I know you're incredibly busy. You have so many things going on, and such a great ministry that you are running there, and helping abortion workers, and doing so much for life. And so again, I know you're very busy, so I thank you for this brief time you're able to join us this evening. Thank you, Abby. Well, thank you, Abby, for being on the call. It was such a pleasure to have you join us, and I know it was short notice to have you on the call, but so thank you for being on the call. And so while you're considering your one-time gift, these one-time gifts are critically important to continue the efforts of building a culture of life in the St. Louis region, both in Missouri and also in Illinois, as we cross the river for these very important things that we're doing here in the Fairview Heights region. And tonight, you will have an opportunity to save even more lives through a one-time gift tonight. So go ahead and click that gift, that one-time gift button tonight, and give towards this one-time only $127,200 matching challenge. This is an all or nothing match, and do that before May 8th at midnight, May 8th. So it's critically important. So let's pray about that incredibly gift of giving your financial treasure tonight. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful gift of life, and for all of those people here on the call as they're considering a gift, a one-time gift. Please be with them. Give them courage and fortitude and generosity as they're considering their gift towards this amazing program with all these amazing people. We thank you for everyone on the call tonight, and we ask you and ask for your blessing as we continue to consider a one-time gift tonight. Amen. In addition to a one-time or single gift this evening, there are so many important things that we do all year long. So those single gifts will go towards getting the training up and running for the ultrasound machine and making sure that all those pieces and puzzle are pulled together as we continue to expand our sidewalk counseling, even amongst the coronavirus. There's so many different things that we have to do right now, including building out this space that we're sitting in right now, which will take about $35,000 to $40,000 just to build this space out and make it a great space for all of us in the pro-life movement. Yet in addition to that, there's a really important way that we can give as well, and that's as a monthly gift tonight. And so I would ask that you would pray about giving that monthly gift this evening and for each month all the way through for the next 12 months. And those 12 months will be instantly doubled as well. So $30 a month becomes $60, $50 a month becomes $100 a month. And so that's critically important as we move forward, because every single life matters. And so that would support sidewalk counseling throughout the entire year, the operation of that ultrasound machine throughout the entire year. And so those monthly gifts mean a lot. And they continue this all the way through the year. So every single day we can be saving lives right on the sidewalk outside this local abortion facility. While each and every one of you consider a monthly gift tonight that will be doubled times 12 by this matching challenge, I did want to bring back Rachel Hiley, who's our Director of Client Services with Women's Care Connect, for a very special story. Rachel, welcome back.
Thanks, Brian. I'm glad to be back with you guys. I just wanted to share with you a little bit about one of the clients that we've been blessed to work with over this last year. Her name is Melissa, and she came to us very abortion-minded, and through a lot of work and support of her, she was able to bring her baby boy into the world this last month. She's actually got a message for us today that we can listen to right now.
Hi, this is Melissa. What I love about Women Connect Her, that for women like myself that not to have no one to talk to, they are there openly without judgment. I was thinking about getting an abortion 3 different times or doing adoption. And with the counseling I received, I was able to make my decision, and I decided to parent. Even after my delivery, they were still here helping, and I thank God for that. And I made the right decision. Thank you.
Isn't that just so wonderful, Brian?
Absolutely, absolutely. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so Melissa, she is an incredible woman, and I just admire her so much for everything that she has gone through. She has made some really tough decisions in her life to be able to give her children the best that she can. She grew up in a kind of a rough situation herself, and has always wanted better for her children. And she strived for that her whole life, but has a lot of self-doubt. And those people in her life were not very supportive, and a lot of negativity around her, saying, you can't do this. It's too hard. It's too great. There's too many obstacles, too many challenges. You're not strong enough. And she really began to internalize that. And when she came to us, the first several hours that we spent talking with her, that's all we heard was, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not capable. And through our life coaching and allowing her to really explore herself and all of the gifts that God has given her as a person, she was able to gain in confidence and to really see that she can do it. And she's not alone, that Women's Care Connect is here to walk alongside her. We were able to help her a lot throughout her pregnancy, both financially and materially, helping with rent payments, car payments. She was a participant in our Christmas Giving Tree program, so her family was blessed by just a huge supply of Christmas gifts at Christmas time and a lot of baby supplies to help her prepare for the arrival of her brand new son, who, by the way, I'd love to share, this part of the story is my favorite. She chose the name Lazarus for her son because she said she felt that God gave him a second chance for life through Women's Care Connect, which I just think is amazing and shows such faith and trust in God for her to know that and to really, want to name her son that. So every time she talks to him, every time she looks at him, she's reminded of the courageous choice that she made to choose life, and that God was with her, and that God allowed Women's Care Connect to walk alongside her through that time. And it's just awesome.
So we right now thank you for sharing that, Rachel. We right now are talking about a monthly gift that would support Women's Care Connect, support our entire ministry, Coalition for Life. What would a monthly gift do for a story like hers?
Your monthly gifts are so vitally important to Women's Care Connect. That's what allows us to keep going. That's what allows us to make things like rent payments, car payments, and our Christmas giving tree possible. Now we're expanding with other services throughout our Women's Care Connect program, and all of that really relies on the support and prayers and financial gifts from people like you to help us make that happen, so that women like Melissa can bring their babies into this world.
Well, thank you again, Rachel, for joining us, and God bless.
Thanks, Brian.
And thank every single one of you for all of your support and your gifts towards this amazing matching challenge, this $157,200 matching challenge as part of this Building Hope webcast. Again, this will be until May 8th at midnight. So about 8 or 9 days before this is going to expire. It's an all or nothing matching challenge, $157,200 matching challenge in roughly about 8 days. And so if you haven't already done so, please consider a one-time gift or a monthly gift. There should be some links just below this video to be able to go ahead and do that. And if you'd like to send a check in, you can send it to the address at the very bottom of this page, 11780 Borman Drive in St. Louis, Missouri. And I just wanted to take just a few moments to sum up exactly what we've been doing throughout this entire broadcast, and then thank a few people who have already committed to this matching challenge. So what we have done is we have gone all the way from the sidewalk, the prayer, the fasting, 40 Days for Life, and gone through sidewalk counseling with the amazing people who are out there saving lives by being inconvenienced and going to the places that they need to go and wearing the mask and the glasses and the hand sanitizer and washing their hands all the time. This is critically important at this moment in our history for us to go out to the sidewalk. Even beyond that, we want to thank those individuals who are working with Women's Care Connect, who are advancing our mission through the Pregnancy Resource Center. Thank you to them and all of their efforts, both our volunteers and also our team who are working their tails off. And we pray for this brand new office that we're sitting in Fairview Heights, Illinois, 132 feet away from the so-called mega abortion facility, this Planned Parenthood. And so we thank God for those things, and we thank you for the new ultrasound machine, the new facility, and for each and every single one of you. You are so important. And so I just wanted to thank a few people who have already committed to the match. I want to thank Roger. Thank you for Roger for giving. Nick, Amanda, thank you. Berna, William, Martin, Chris and Amanda, thank you. Thank you for committing to the match. And thank you for your donations and your financial gift. Mark, Carrie, Michelle, David, let's scroll down here, Judith, Victoria, and they just keep coming. So thank you to everyone who has committed towards this matching challenge. It really means a lot for myself, for our team, and for the St. Louis region, and also for Illinois and Missouri, and then around the entire country. We are in fact saving lives. We're saving lives, but we're doing it together. Each individual person, one after another, joining together, both in prayer and also by giving our talents and our treasure. So thank you for that, and let's end in a word of prayer. Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for this amazing gift of life, and we thank you for everyone who has been on this broadcast today. Thank you for their gifts. Thank you for their talents. Thank you for giving us this gift of technology. It was a hard road to get here, but we made it. And so we thank you for all of this. And we also thank you for our families, our friends, our donors, our supporters, everyone who gives towards this effort in any way. We thank you for them, and we thank you for this gift of community, this gift of life. And we ask for those women who are considering abortion, that they would turn around, that they would leave that abortion facility, they would walk away, that they would not even go, that instead they would be greeted by a great sidewalk counselor, or we would see them go to a pregnancy center, or reach out to someone that they love, that they care for, or reach out to their church. We ask you to be with those women who are considering abortion today. And finally, for those children who will die in an abortion facility today or tomorrow or next week, for those children, that they would be accepted into your arms on their final day. Amen. And so that is our Building Hope webcast, and we thank each and every single one of you. Invite your friends, your family as well. Hopefully we'll have this recording up and ready to go very soon. And so invite your friends and family to join us at buildinghope.life, and also to donate at coalitionforlifestl.com/donate. And together we will bring an end to abortion in the St. Louis region. God bless you guys.